Hey guys, and welcome back to the Grace Kitz channel, where I, Michelle, document my life here on YouTube as I try to become a full-time author while also traversing the world of multiple personalities. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. But today we're going to be doing a slightly different video. Instead of talking about my usual writing life, I'm actually going to be talking about my faith in religion. And I find this interesting because I am somebody who has multiple personalities, and I find it interesting how everyone in my system has, not everybody, but everyone in the system has kind of different beliefs on what we want for our life, because obviously everybody's different, but also like how we kind of cope slash deal with everything going on, especially in the religious sense, since we are trying to do like four rosaries a day, praying the Bible in a year, well, doing the Bible in a year, and then doing, obviously, writing Christian fiction books, and also writing about Catholic saints. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so basically, I don't even know where to start with this video, but as I said, I'm somebody who has multiple personalities or multiple alters. I'm not planning on giving you any names of any of my alters except like my pen names and my personal name. Well, okay, I say my personal name. I am not actually Michelle. I'm gonna refer to the body as Michelle though, just because like that is what. Growing up, we were always Michelle. Right now, we're kind of like not necessarily in a transition between our name, just because we still go by Michelle because everybody knows us as Michelle. But basically, like, just talking about religion and faith. Because so, as some of you guys might know, I write in three different pen names. I have Shelly, who writes those books up there, which are middle grade children's chapter books. I have Grace, who writes the Christian fiction, contemporary coming of age storylines, where I follow like 18 different students as they come into their spiritual awakening and stuff. And then I also write in my Maris world, which is a fantasy world that has a lot of similarities between the Catholic religion and stuff. And obviously, like with that, I try daily to put forth the effort to at least connect a little bit with my roots because I was born and raised Catholic. But the things that I do are not necessarily the same things that I did as a child. Because I feel like as a child, granted, I don't really remember much about my childhood and what we did and stuff, but like, I feel like we didn't pray the rosary much. We did like the Lent, we did the Advent stuff, and not even necessarily Advent stuff. We just did Lent. I feel like was the only like really religious thing we did. But I'm here now as a 25-year-old being like more into my religion and into my faith, because I try to pray four rosaries a day. I do the Bible in a year, or I try to do that at least every day. I'm watching spiritual videos. I'm writing about Catholic saints and about different mental health disorders and how they reflect in the Catholic faith and stuff. And it's interesting because I have an altar. I'm going to have him as the letter J. He is a male. And he and a couple of his, I want to say buddies, but also people similar to him, like, who don't really believe in the faith, how they kind of tolerate it almost. And I believe I told you guys, like, I had a split thought of, like, possibly becoming a nun or a sister. And as we did more thinking, we're like, I don't think that would work for us. Because, like, granted, we need to have more acceptance between each other. Because sometimes, like, yes, we do accept each other as who we are. But sometimes the entity of us who wants to dictate the world, some people call it a host. I don't really call it a host. We don't really have hosts. But that particular person controls and dictates a lot. And they're kind of still holding on to like wanting to be the host, even though like we've accepted like a majority of us who are out all the time are like there is no host. We just kind of come in, come out, dictate, like not dictate, but we come in and out, just doing our thing kind of thing. That's why I think we have more OSDD than DID, because there's no, like, well, there's some amnesia walls, but, like, not as many, like, amnesia walls and, like, full-on personality switches. Like, from me to, like, Grace, or me to Shelly, or Grace to Shelly, and stuff like that. Because everyone kind of has similar beliefs, but also at the same point, it is a little bit different. So, yeah. So, the one altar that I'm mostly thinking about, Jay, he, he and his groups or buddies, they really don't believe in the Catholic faith. And at the same point, they're like, we accept that you accept the Catholic faith as your religion. Now, I'm not sure what kind of religion they are. I don't think we've ever really had a discussion on that, because, like, we've only ever known the Catholic faith. Like, we don't, like, go into detail about other faiths because it just doesn't feel right to us. And, like, I would say, if anything, they're more atheists than they are anything else. Just because, like, yes, they care about religion a little bit, but not, like, as much as the girls of us want to. But also, like, I think it's just interesting because, like, I feel like a good portion of our males believe in, like, atheism, or just want to be not religious, and then there's a good portion of us girls who want to be Catholic. And I just find that interesting. And it also, like, I don't know, it might also have a lot to deal with the fact that, like, obviously we are in a female presenting body, and, like, a lot of us males, like, we already struggle with it, like, how it is as being a girl in a male body. I mean, being a male in a girl's body, you know? But it's just interesting. So, yeah. I really find the whole situation interesting, and if you guys have questions about, like, our beliefs on it, I would love to do another video like this, and just talk more about our faith and more personal things that have to do with us. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to take a little break because I feel someone wanting to come out and talk. So I'll let them come out. Okay, hi. My name is H. I am one of the alters in the system. I also help Grace write in her Grace pen name. So basically, I wanted to come out and just say my little 2 cents. It's just how we are. But basically, I am the one who really wanted to become a nun, or at least become a sister, or something like that. Just because it's just always been something that we've thought about, and, like, especially with our mother and our grandmother, I feel like we kind of always heard them talking about, like, oh, this person would make a great nun and stuff, or a great sister, or a great, like, priest and stuff. But also, like, I've always felt like we've had a connection with God and with the Holy Spirit and stuff like that. And it would just, I don't know, it sounds nice, and, like, we wanted to have, like, a sisterhood somewhere in our life, and, like, I don't know. But the problem is with us, we do sort of have, I would say, like, people would say probably religious trauma, but I wouldn't say religious trauma. It's just, we were so ingrained in personally doing all the stuff at Mass, because we would serve in Mass on Saturdays whenever we were in high school. And we would typically be the only one serving. There would sometimes be another boy that was with us, but 95% of the time we would serve by ourselves, do everything by ourselves. And then a new priest came in and completely changed the way that we served, because, like, we had served ever since second grade. We were probably in sophomore in high school, and he just changed everything. And it really was like, dude, we already are dealing with enough. We can't continue to deal with more. And that's honestly a reason why we didn't go to church for a very long time. After high school, well, also after high school, we were still dealing with a lot with us. And it was just hard to be present in the Mass. And sometimes we're still not present in the Mass. Yeah, and it's interesting. And, like, I'm sitting at our desk right now, and I see, so we have, this picture of, Jesus holding a lamb, and we also have a picture of the Blessed Virgin Mary holding a heart, or a rose. I think it's a rose and a heart together. And it's got the seven sorrows of Mary on it. And we also have 4 note cards that we've written all the mysteries on. We're doing really good remembering them. We have several rosaries. We have notebooks. We have the Bible that we have. I think we just have a lot of little things. And also we're wearing a miraculous medal of the Virgin Mary. And it's just interesting how, like, even though we all are different individuals, we all still are like, we can accept the one faith, if that makes sense. But yet there is still times wherever we do struggle with our religion, because say there's been several days lately where we haven't been able to pray the rosary every day. Well, we try to pray it every 4 times a day, which is a lot, but at least we try to get it once, and typically we can get at least one. We want to do the Bible in a year every day, not always doing it and stuff. There's just a lot of stuff that we're not necessarily doing, which makes me sad, because I'm like, I want to get into our faith, I want to get into our religion, but I also understand, like, where the male altars in our head, male altars are like, this is dumb, we don't want to do it. And there's been some nights wherever the male altars will be like, okay, we're in control right now. We are not going to, I don't want to say allow, but we're not going to listen to you pray the rosary. Because we have a chapel in the headspace where where everyone can come in and just talk and have conversations, but also have moments with God. And it's interesting because, like, there are a few males that go in there, and then others that are just, like, always standing at the door waiting for whoever they want to talk to come out. And if they need to have a quiet conversation in the chapel, there's a quiet room where, like, yes, they're technically in the church, but they're also not in the church as well. And it's all just super, super interesting things. Our brain is an interesting place. I really enjoy I personally enjoy how our brain is set up. I don't know how that has anything to do with what we're saying, but, like, I'm just going to give you an example of yesterday. So yesterday we went into Mass. We were, like, we went in willingly, and, like, not willingly, but, like, we knew we were going to go to Mass. We did stay at home a little longer than we wanted to, but we went into Mass, so everything was good. And then towards the beginning, like, before, we prayed the rosary at Mass, before Mass even starts, with everyone else. And then as time comes on, people come into the room, come into the church. And there were several people, like, me and my dad stood up front in the Mass, just because that's what we've always done. And it helps me a lot, because then I don't have to see other people behind me, like, see people in front of me. That's been a lot of problems, is, like, I know there's eyes on me, we can't do it. But it's interesting because like, yesterday, we had one of our aunts come into Mass like, towards the end, and then there was a family that was having, like, a Mass for their mother who just passed, and it was a lot for it was a lot for all of us to be like, okay, we have all these people in front of us, how are we gonna, like, we couldn't deal. And so we ended up having to leave early, and it really hurt me because we had to leave. And then also, on top of that, for some reason there was bloody screaming in our head, and it hurt. And it hurts so much to hear the screaming and stuff. Yeah. I don't know what any of this had to deal. I'll let Michelle come back out and have a more conversation with you. But I just wanted to give my 2 cents. Bye. Okay. Maybe we have more amnesia walls than I think. Or maybe we just like to do rapid switches. I don't know. I am one of the males in the system, but I'm also somebody who kind of comes out whenever we're tired. So basically, what Michelle was getting at before is it's just each one of us has their own different beliefs. And some of us have similar beliefs and others don't. And when it comes to Grace and her works, a lot of us are like, at the end of the day, they're like, well, this is how this person expresses themselves. And everybody typically in our system is a writer. It's just how we are. We've always been creative. We've always told ourselves stories. Whenever our nephew, when we were living at mom and dad's, well, when we were in high school and our nephew stayed a lot at mom and dad's, we would tell him stories for him to go to sleep and stuff, so it was just ingrained in us to tell stories. Even though we don't really read a lot of books, we do tell a lot of stories just by writing and stuff. But so with Grace's story, everyone's like, this is how Grace tells her stories. This is what Grace is connected with. And even with H, whenever she comes out, like, everyone knows, like, okay, this is their time, they're going to speak. Um, and yeah, some of us do have issues with having, like, they seem to have a lot more time out, especially, say, for November. We try to do the rough draft challenge where Grace wrote 30,000 words. And, like, some of the males, and well, the males are upset because Michelle was like, we need to focus only on Grace, and that's not healthy. We cannot just focus on one person. And yeah, I don't know. But it's just, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. But with each pen name, each alter inside of us who writes, we all know that they're gonna write their own expressive words, if that makes sense. Because, like, if you were to read Shelley's books, you were kind of getting into the scope of, like, different religions in there, too. A lot of our talks is just, like, about faith in the first series, so with the Bugstopia books. But we have a series in the Insectopolis series, which is a spin-off of Bugstopia, just in a different city. And that one has kind of stuff to do with witches, but not like the classic, like, spells witches. Like, these bugs were blessed by spirits of their ancestors to protect this one city, well, protect this one town, and, like, all the bugs that live in that town are female, kind of like a cult. But yeah, so we're kind of getting in different religions with the Shelley books, while Grace obviously spends most of her time in the Christian faith. Eventually we'll get back into doing saint books and stuff, and so it's just like that. And then Maris, even though we haven't really done much writing for Maris, she's probably going to be a combination of both of the both Shelley and Grace. Because, like, we're taking a lot of inspiration from the Catholic Bible, but also having a lot of, like, fantasy elements and stuff. And, Grace sometimes comments, well, somebody in the altar, in our system was like, what, like, is it okay for us to write fantasy books? Because, like, it doesn't seem like a very Catholic thing to do. But also at the same point, we're like, this is our creative way of telling the story. And it's just that's how it is. This is our way of telling the story. Do we believe everything that we write? No. Just, like, I don't know how to put this, like, in our worlds that we write, we're trying to make them as realistic as possible. And not everyone's going to be religious, not everyone's going to be preaching the gospel and stuff like that, even though I don't really know how the gospel would work in our fantasy books. But, like, these things, and I don't know. That's just how it is. We all know that fiction is fiction. Some of us know that fantasy is fantasy, And when we want to get more in tune with our spiritual realities. We do read more spiritual books. We don't have many on our shelf. A lot of the books up there on the shelf over there are books that we've had for a while, and I'm mostly contemporary romances and stuff. Um, yeah, but I don't know what Michelle was talking about earlier. But I kind of think that's all that we need to wrap it up, kind of thing. So if you have questions for us, more questions about like what it's like for us in certain situations, I would love to tell it. Okay, maybe not me. um, but I would love for us to get more connected with ourselves, and doing videos some reason makes us feel more connected to ourselves. Um, yeah, so if you are interested in that, leave a comment down below. Um, we might do more, we'll probably do more videos like this in the future, but this one tired me out. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. So I'll see you guys later, okay? Bye.